Hi there. Welcome again to another episode of my channel. I'm Chris. If you are visiting for the first time, in this YouTube channel, I talk about fully funded scholarships for those who want to come to North America, the US, Canada for their graduate studies, and for those who are looking for scholarships. So, if you are looking for scholarships and you want to come to North America, you are obviously in the right place. Come on in. In today's episode, I want to talk about cold emails to professors. So, cold emails is one of those first steps for those who would be required to secure a supervisor before they get admitted into the university. What is a cold email? Well, first and foremost, a cold email is one of such unsolicited or initial emails sent to a receiver without prior contact in order to gain benefit in terms of favor, opportunities, or any dual-sided gain, meaning that your receiver and you, the sender, would be benefiting from the email. And then in terms of education, in terms of, the scholarship journey, a cold email is that, email you send to professors asking them to be if it is possible for them to be your professor, for them to be your supervisor, I mean. So it is the very first step for those who are required to do so. Like I said, for those who are required to do so. Most humanities program in North America, you are not required to send this kind of initial email to professors asking them to supervise you. When the department admits you, they will give you the originally or naturally give you a supervisor. But for some programs like in the sciences and for some programs in Europe, especially the UK, they might require you to contact a professor first before the admission process to the university begins. But in North America, for humanities students, it is not required, at least to a large extent. To my knowledge, it is not required. However, for the science students and for those working in the lab and all those kind of, those kind of disciplines, you might be required to contact a professor that works in the area of research that you also have interest in. So if you're one of those students who would need these cold emails, tighten your belt, buckle your sandals, and get ready. Okay, so how should you write your cold email? So what are those things you should consider while writing or while sending your cold emails to professors, your potential supervisors or professors? Now, I'm going to respond to these questions in under three different themes. First, I'm going to tell you the things you should consider before sending in your cold email. Secondly, I'm going to tell you some email etiquette. And then thirdly, I'm going to highlight an actual structure for a cold email. First and foremost, if you want to write cold emails, the first things you should consider is identify your areas of research interest and that of your professors or the potential supervisor you want to write to. So identify what are those areas of research interest or areas that you want to work on for your graduate studies. What are those areas in your field that you want to work on, that you love so much, that you want to really invest your time or your graduate studies research into? For me, I am interested in the philosophy of medicine, biomedical ethics, African social and applied philosophy. So you have to identify this, all right? And then secondly, you have to codify your relevant research experiences. You have to codify what are those things that you have done in that areas of research interest. For example, have you written and published any academic paper in that field? Have you gone for any conferences and presented papers in that field? Do you have subsidiary certificate for those areas of interest? All right. For example, in my field. I have published at least some papers in, philosophy of medicine and biomedical ethics. So these are things you should consider, but do not be afraid. If you don't have any research, relevant research experiences like being a research intern or working on a research project before, or publishing or having a certificate in those areas of research interest, do not be afraid. There's another way you can, and you really should. I understand some people don't have this robust research experiences, but it is not a prerequisite, right? So in this section, what you should do is highlight those. You have to codify the kind of research questions you are interested in, or you have to highlight those research gap that you have noticed in those areas of interest you want to work on for your graduate studies. All right. So what are those important questions that you think you might want to dedicate time answering through your graduate studies research? Then thirdly, how does your research experiences and research interests align with those of the professors, or with those of the professor you are writing to, or the potential supervisor you are writing to? How does your areas of research interest, or your research experiences, or your research questions, the research questions you want to ask, or the research gap you have noticed, how do they align with the interest and with the want and with those of the potential supervisor you are writing to, right? So that is that for the consideration before writing or sending in your cold emails. Now, what are those basic emailing etiquettes you should consider as well when you are sending these emails? First and foremost, you have to personalize the email. You have to be specific. What do you want? What are those important questions that concerns you? Why do they concern you? Why do they matter to you? And why do you think the professor would want to work on those areas? What are those professor's own areas of research interest that, that made you think he might be interested in these questions that you have and want to address through your graduate studies? Remember, you are writing to this professor to work in his lab, or to work in his department, to be his research assistant or something. So you have to be specific. You have to narrow down your areas of research interest, the questions you have. You have to narrow it down and make it very specific, direct. Secondly, you have to personalize and make specific your subject line. What is the subject of your email? How should you figure it? Sometimes professors or people naturally respond to your email based on how the subject of the email reads. So for example, you might want to say prospective graduate student for MSc or PhD 2023, something like that. You have to be direct. Then most importantly, have to keep it simple, go straight to the point. Your code email shouldn't be more than 5 paragraphs. Each of the paragraphs constituting nothing more than 5, not more than 5 lines or 10 lines at most. It shouldn't be more than that. Keep it simple, straightforward. These professors receive tons and tons of emails, right? And they don't want any, and they have so many essays to read as well, and they don't want to be bogged down by some random emails from some persons in one country like that, So you have to go straight to the point and keep it as short as possible. And then the fourth consideration under email etiquette is you have to get the right information of the potential professor you are writing to. You have to spell their names correctly. You have to spell the name of the university that they are working on. You have to get really, you have to know what research area they are presently working on. So you might have read that this so-and-so professor is interested in machine learning, but machine learning was area of research interest or a project he worked on 10 years ago. He's no longer working on that area. He's no longer working on that that subfield or that particular research questions that he did 10 years ago. So writing to him and then reminding him of an area he worked on will not make you a serious candidate, obviously, right? So you have to know what they are presently working on. Even if you are particularly interested in working on that former area the professor has worked on, you have to acknowledge that, yes, I do know that I'm writing to you based on the fact that I do know that you've worked on so and so this particular area some years back. Is it possible that you could still be interested in taking in a student who is interested in that area? Yes. So some professors, yes, of course, they are no longer working in this particular area, but they might still be willing to accept students. All right. So you have to let them know that you actually did your research, that yes, you do know that they worked on this area, but they are no longer working on it. And so you have to acknowledge that, you have to show that you know that. So, and then the fifth consideration on that basic email etiquette you should consider when sending in or writing your cold email is that you have to send the email at the right time. If you send an email by weekend or holidays, and then the professor don't open his email, and then he comes back to work normal working days, and then other fresh emails come, they're obviously going to consider those fresh emails that came in, right? So you have to choose working days, early morning working days, so that it will be one of the first things that they check while coming into the office. All right, so that is that for email etiquette. And now let's dive right into how should you structure your cold email. Like I said, your cold email should not constitute more than five paragraphs, each of the paragraph nothing more than 10 lines. All right, so you have to keep it straightforward. So in your first paragraph, you have to introduce yourself. What are those qualifications you have? Where did you study? Your nationality and things like that. And then you have to highlight that you are interested in these and these areas of research interest. I am interested in the philosophy of medicine, applied philosophy, things like that. Highlight them, say them out, let it be clear, so that it will show that this student actually know what they are doing. All right. And then in your second paragraph, you highlight why you're actually writing to him or her. You can say that I am writing to you because I am wondering if you are willing to take in any graduate student as a research assistant or whatever it is called in come fall 2023. I am interested, I am working on so and so areas. I wonder if you might be able to supervise someone who is working on this area. So you have to say why you're actually writing to them, clear and straightforward. In your third paragraph, you have to highlight your achievement and research experiences in this field that you say you want to work on, or this topic that you want to work on. What are those things you've done in the past that relate to that topic you said you want to work on, or that shows that you actually have the experience to work in this field? Like I said before, don't fret if you do not have prior experiences or prior research exposure. You can as well, after you've done your robust research, you can as well raise important questions, that these are the things that interest you, that you want to work on. And because you want to hear the professor has done similar things, because of that is why you are writing to him. Research gaps, research questions. It is important because it shows that you really know your way around the relevant literature and the relevant, field and, areas of interest. And then your fourth paragraph, that is where you highlight how your achievement and experiences relate to what the professor is actually working on. Why should these your areas of research interest and experiences matter to the professor? Why should he take you seriously? Well, he should take you seriously because they align with what the professor is doing. It is also here that you align what you have to mention. I encourage you to mention one of this professor's particular paper, published paper or book, that informed you, that was formative in you choosing the area you want to work on. You can say, I read your work published in 2023 or 2022 that where you make this argument, and I find this argument particularly informative, and I think I want to explore this topic further. So you have to show you really know what you are talking about and how what your experiences and interests align with that of the professor. Here you have to be specific. You have to quote information correctly. Have to show that you have actually made your research. You have researched so much on him. But sometimes you slightly, I do not encourage this for those who don't know how to use it. Flattery. You have to, sing the professor's praises in that particular work that informed you, that professor's particular work that informed your own choice of research areas, or that was very informative to you. You have to say how beautiful the work was, helpful, and how the argument was elegant. You have to see, if you don't know how to use flattery in a prudent way, don't use it. Just say that the work, how the work was informative, and argument the professor made in his work, that in this particular work that was very informative and you find useful to you. And then finally, you just make your concluding remarks. You say, well, based on your exposure, qualifications, and research experiences, or whatever, or the research questions you have, you think that you'll be a right fit for his lab based on the reasons highlighted above and everything. So, just the general concluding remarks to show that, you should be summative, right? And so that is that for, the tips, things you should, when writing, sending cold emails. And I do hope that this was very helpful. So I'm going to leave you with a sample of a cold email from one of my friends, and I hope you would find it useful. Like I said, I'm a graduate student in the humanities, and in humanities, most humanities programs do not require their graduate student or potential graduate student to write a cold email to contact a professor before they apply for, university admission. So I do not have that particular experience. What I've said so far has come from my own research and from my own consultation with people who did and secured admission into schools, right? So I am confident that everything I've said so far, if you apply it, it would help you in your own research for those who want to apply to schools, and for those whom it might be required for them to write this code, send these cold emails. Okay, that is that for that. And if you did enjoy my videos, please leave a thumbs up, like my videos. Please help me to share for those who might find it useful. And please, if you have further questions, leave your questions in the comment section below. And please, I beg you again, I make a passionate appeal, like my videos, share it, and invite people to view. It is a huge source of encouragement. And I want to use this opportunity to thank Valentine Woke for suggesting I make a video on cold emails. I've been wanting to make a video on cold emails, but having one of my viewers really recommend cold emails was something I decided to make it. So thank you, Val, and thank you all my viewers for tuning in, and I do hope to see you next week. Okay, bye bye.